We had the first edition of the .NET magazine, which is almost similar to the Web Designer magazine, which is another, I think, to me, is another leading magazine in terms of front-end design. And so I'm super pumped about having this in the library. So we'll get some more editions as time goes on. But this is the first one that we got, and it came this week. And so just another, yes, on top of that, just kind of on the lines of this here. Extra credit for the Web Designer magazine. I know I got an email from you, Mason. I have to read it. I haven't read it yet. But if you want to take a step at extra credit, this will be the last week to do it, right? But also, if you have a magazine that's checked out, you can return it to the library so that other folks can actually check it out. That would be great as well. I'll probably have this in my office for probably like 2 weeks. I'll probably take it home during Christmas break, but I'll put it back during Christmas break if someone wants to check it out. So even though this is like extra credit, feel free to check these out. If you're interested in front-end development, even if you're networking, right? Like, I love this stuff, right? So feel free to go ahead and continue to pursue programming on the front-end side, right? Using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can do freelance work over the summer and things of that nature. You'll be surprised at how much people pay for this whole simple static web or website. .NET, I just wanted to let you guys know that we actually have this edition, which is pretty cool. There's a few more housekeeping things here. The final exam, I'm planning for shooting for Tuesday of the last week of this semester. So that'll be the final exam. It'll be pretty much straightforward, kind of just like the midterm exam, where there'll be some questions, some matching and definitions. The best way to study for the final exam would be to actually go to W3C schools, right? Take the JavaScript quiz. Make sure you catch from the reading, and also make sure that you review the PowerPoint slides. Question would be a question. I believe so. Yeah, so it's like add 3 numbers together. That's an output. Which one? The final exam? Coding? I can tell you what the questions are going to be. So the questions are going to be basically add these 3 numbers together, follow function, and output the answers of information. So very simple, very basic, not with anything that's extensive. Right? Using a function, calling information from the text boxes, adding them up, and working out.
What chapters were we all supposed to do? 6, 7.
According to the syllabus. So there's if you look at the syllabus, there's a number of different chapters there that I'm putting on for each week. So just go ahead and review and scan those chapters, right? And also review everything that you see on lecture slides. Most likely you'll see a question related to that on the exam. So make sure that you actually review the lecture slides. Take the quiz on. There'll be some questions I'll pull from the quiz on W3C schools. And then there'll be some questions I'll pull from the book. So those are 3 different resources. There won't be any terminology things such as like the quiz that we took with JavaScript. That was more so to kind of introduce like some of the different things that JavaScript offers in terms of objects and some of the things we can use with our code. But more so it's going to be how to actually apply JavaScript. That's the focus of the quiz. And then, like I said, we're coming out to the very end here. Next week we have one more lecture, which is going to be on objects. And so we've used objects like a document object, a window object, right? We learned about the screen object, we learned about a number of different objects, but how do you actually create your own objects? Right? So if I wanted to create, for instance, a cow object, right? Cow can have certain properties as well as certain methods associated with it, or a person object. So we can actually create our own objects and use those within our programs. And so we'll talk about that next week. And then the last week of class, once we take the final exam, we'll get into some Apache Cordova and actually creating a mobile application with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the application you see me doing in class is our in-class example. I'll take that and I'll modify it and I'll kind of make it like in a mobile format, and I'll actually turn it into an application that you can actually upload to Google Play or iOS. Before we get started, any questions?
We can push the document onto the server tomorrow, right? You don't want it by the end of today.
Yeah, so for instance, if we saw we are to assignment number 5, right?
Yeah, we can put it on Canvas tonight.
Yeah, so you can put it on Canvas tonight. So if you're not done, like for instance, if you can't get access to the server tonight, just come in early in the morning and just push it over.
We can get to the server from our home internet, or do we have
Yeah,
to
you
be
have
on
the
the network?
VPN.
You have the VPN, I think.
Oh,
So
there's
just
a little
use
play
it.
out, don't we?
You have the VPN to play that. Don't we? There should be an icon on your desktop.
Yeah.
That's it's just a Dunwoody VPN.
Yeah.
You click on it, you put your username, put your password. Don't put a domain name.
That little S looks like a little S roll there on your left. Right above your Google Chrome.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, below, go one down.
Okay. I've never used it before.
Yeah,
Just
just
sometimes people find issues with that. So sometimes they're able to get on, sometimes they're not. I've always been able to get on. I'm not sure why, but most of the time people are able to. Sometimes people have issues with not getting on. So if you have an issue with not getting on, just come in tomorrow and push it up to the server, right?
Nice. You should ask you like first questions about our science.
With regard to the second part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to end class a little earlier, like 5 minutes early. And for those who have questions, I'll address those questions. Yeah. All right, let's try to the question. All right, there's a few more slides I want to cover here in a little bit more detail. I want to wrap up this lecture 3 here, in the lecture today, and then I'll do some examples. I'll continue to flush out our in-class example of our delivery zone application checker. So that's the plan for today, and hopefully we'll get that early here. I'll let you guys head out, or you can use the rest of the time in class next week work on your 75, or if you have any questions, you can call me over and we can talk about it. So let me just do a quick review. We talked about the if condition yesterday, or the if statement, right? So if a particular item is, if this condition is true, run code that's in between this opening and closing bracket, right? You see me use that within the validate zip code function, right? If zip code or the zip length is not equal to 5, alert the end user to say that you entered a zip code that's not 5 characters long, right? And so it's used a lot in programming. You'll see it a lot. It's used a lot. So I'll use it again today when we actually decide if the zip code is within our array. Now here's an if-else statement, right? Where you say if the condition is true, do what's in between this block. Else, if it's not true, run this code here, right? Now here's an example of that. If today is equal to Tuesday, today is equal to Monday, right? Output this, else output this. And so this statement is not true, or this condition is not true. So it's going to actually output what's in the else strand here. A quick pop quiz here. What does this do here?
Means exactly. And
Right, the same data type, they have to be the exact same data type we use in comparisons, right? A strict comparison.
can you not do lowercase Monday?
I can do a lowercase Monday, right? But the thing is, it will still say that it's not equal because
Oh,
that
okay.
takes into consideration.
So you can't
No, you can't. So it takes into consideration lowercase. You have to do 2 uppercase or 2 lowercase as a function, and it's basically specify whether or not you want to basically write with everything in lowercase or uppercase. This is called an if-else statement. You can actually nest if statements. So here's an example of that here. So we have our sales total is equal to 75. If sales total is greater than 50, which is a true statement, yes, that's true. Go into the block and say if sales total is less than 100, false statement, right? 75 is less than 100. So that it'll output this information here. Right, so we can nest if statements within our code. And here's an else if, right? In Python, what is it called?
LF.
LF or elf if, whatever you want to call it, right? LF. But here's the syntax for that, where you can say if game location is equal to away. Every time I say that, you'll see the 3 equals, I want to say it 3 times equal, right? But if game location within this array is equal to away, output this. Else if game location is equal to home, output this. So basically, we can check for multiple conditions, right? So we can have tons of different statements that we want to check with else if. And if it is that the condition is true, then run within that block of code. Now here's an example of code you would use to basically suffice for Internet Explorer. That's all right. If you remember, Internet Explorer does not use add event listener. Internet Explorer uses add attach event, right? So like I said, this is kind of getting old here because a lot of people don't use Internet Explorer anymore. So they use Edge, but there are some folks who still have Internet Explorer, just like we think most of the folks in here have Internet Explorer. We trigger it up. No?
I've never used it. Oh,
Okay.
We have it on our.
You have it if you ever use
Yeah.
it, right?
never.
But so that kind of attests to how old this is coming. So a lot of times, if you go to a company, you will want to do something of this nature, just in case a user is using Internet Explorer, and then their code, your actual code would actually trigger it, and they're actually looking at the attached event versus the events. The last thing I want to do here is talk about the switch statement. It's very much the same thing as else if, right? You can have a switch statement that basically checks for a number of conditions. If that condition is true, or if that value is true of that particular statement, it's going to run the code and return some particular value. So here's the syntax of a switch statement. Where we have, here's a switch, and here's the expression. And it's going to run through each case. If the case is equal to the label, or the expression is equal to the label here, it's going to return whatever the statements are, or run the statements within that particular case. Here's an example of how it's used. We have a function. It's called city location. We're passing it one parameter. And then within our function, we have this switch statement. And we're going to say if case is equal to Boston, if case is Boston, return Massachusetts, right? And then if case is equal to Chicago, return Illinois, and then so forth. And then if it's either one of these here, the default is going to be United States, right? So it's the same thing as an else if, right? Or else if, right? It's a different way of structuring or use another statement that you can use to basically make a decision on your code, or make a decision on which one to actually invoke or call or return. Does this make sense? So let's actually do this. Let's run this in JS Fiddle here. So how would I actually call or invoke this function here?
You would need to
Like,
How would I call and invoke the city location function?
you need to pass a parameter of American City to it and put it down put down at the very bottom of that.
So what would I write?
City underscore location. Say Boston parentheses. Yeah.
So exactly. So we know that we have a function that's called city location, and it takes one parameter. So when we're going to call it, we're going to say city location. We're going to pass it one parameter, right? So when you do this, we call it instead of looking at your code to see if there's a function that calls city location and it has a particular a space for one parameter, right? And so if we call this here, what's going to output is going to be Massachusetts. So to actually alert this here, we actually have to put this within an alert. So the alert, we're going to pass city location function as a parameter. And if we run this, we get Massachusetts, all right? What happens if I pass this Los Angeles? Thanks for Los Angeles. Is that right?
yeah.
Let's roll with it. Right, what if I do this? Oh, we already have Los Angeles in there, so it's going to say California. So here, I'll put this in California, right? Let's actually try to make do one that's not in there. Let's say New Jersey. What's going to output here?
United States.
Yep, United States. It's in the default So this guy here. So if we run this, it's going to be the default value because it's not one of these cases within our switch statement. So like I said, the switch statement is a very useful concept you can use. It's like an else if, right? Or else if, I'm sorry, that you can use, but it's a very short and concise way of actually testing a number of different cases to see if it's actually one of the particular cases we would like to invoke or run or return. And that's pretty much it for lecture 3. Let's actually open up our class example and begin to flush that out. We'll go to chapter 7 layout 3. This with Notepad++. Scroll down. And here's our code so far. Right. If you remember, we created these two functions called one is minimap and one is called arting map, right? Previously were anonymous functions within our add event listener. So if somebody clicks on the minimap or the map location for arting deals, it's going to run these two statements. If somebody clicks on the map location for minimap, it's going to run those two statements for the minimap function, right? We also defined the validate zip function. So we have this validate zip function here. And so once this function is called or invoked, it's going to basically get the value from the text box that the end users actually enter in their zip code. We're going to get the length of whatever they entered, and then we're going to check to see if it's not equal to 5. Right? So if the zip code length is not equal to 5, we're going to alert to say zip code needs to be 5 characters long. Right? You need to be greater than 5 characters, you need to be less than 5 characters. Right? Another thing we're going to do is we're going to return the zip code. Right? Because we're going to use that zip code in other places within our program. Right? So let's continue to flush this program out. Also, yesterday we also called the validate zip. So once somebody actually enters or presses the enter key, right, on our keyboard, it's going to basically run this function. We're going to call that function. So whatever number they enter, and they actually press enter, right, and return key is number 13 key code, it's going to basically run the validate zip function. And we tested that functionality out yesterday to make sure that it actually works as we want it to work, right, or we work as we planned it, it works as intended. Right? Here's the next thing I'm going to do here. Because we return the zip code here, this function is now holding a value, right? We're returning the zip code, so if the end user entered 55404, this function is going to hold 55404. I'm going to declare a new variable here. That's var zip equals validate zip, right? Essentially what I'm doing here is basically saying take whatever in validate zip and pass it to the zip variable, right? So if the end user entered 55404, the zip variable now holds 55404.
So the variable zip equals document that zip, that value is the same thing as the validate zip.
Yep. So that so basically right now, validate zip. If they enter in here in its value 5544 or 5513, whatever they entered, right, we're going to return it from this function. And validate zip is not going to hold whatever the end user input. All I'm going to here is declare another variable and say take whatever is being held within this function and pass it to this variable zip. Right? So I'm going to use that zip code later on my program, right? I'm going to test whether or not that zip code is in one of my arrays I'm going to create for the Minneapolis location. So that's going to actually create the array for the Minneapolis location. I'm going to say var minizip equals What are some zip codes for Minneapolis? 55429. I know one I have is 55. I used to live downtown 55404. What else? 55. Let's do 55404. Sorry, 5543. 55401. Let's do 5 of them there. All right. So right now, I'm just designating some zip codes that we could potentially deliver to. Now, put them into a particular array, right? What would I need to do if I wanted to check whether or not the end user zip code that they've entered is a part of this array? How would I actually check for that?
If or like having like if validated zip equals mini zips, then
Right. So I'm gonna definitely, you're right, you're on the right path, Trent. So I'm gonna listen to the if statement. I can say if not only zip now is actually held, the value is gonna be held within zip. So if zip is equal to one of the zip codes in my array, right? Change the background color of CNS. It's confirmed. You are delivering that zip code, the area, right? But how do I actually iterate through each one of the values within the array?
Like,
Yeah, do a for loop. I think it's what you said, a for loop. Right?
Well, the
So
words
below
in
here-
Python at least.
I'm gonna say for. Declare a new variable called x, var x is equal to 0. I'm gonna say x is less than mini zips dot length. Right? And I'm gonna increment, right? Because I need to increment to check for each index within this array. And so I'll say x plus plus. Right? And then Trent, your statement is going to be next here. So once I'm iterating through this particular array, I'm going to say if, what's my condition?
zip
Yep.
equals mini zips. And then close it off, right? Or
I need to basically iterate through each one, right? How do I specify 55403? It'll be mini zips 2, right? So I need to say mini zips, as I iterate through this array, I need to do x. Does it make sense? So what's going to happen is going to say x is going to hold the value of 0. If I say mini zips 0, what's held in the value of, what's held in mini zips 0?
X or the zip codes.
Right, but which one is mini zip 0?
Like 55429.
Exactly, right? So it's going to start from 0, and it's going to check,
Oh,
it's
right.
going to increment to 1, and it's going to look at 5544. We're going to increment to 1, so look at 55403. It's going to increment to the next one. It's going to check the values in the array. So if it's equal, whatever the end user equals to one of the values within our array, then we need to output some information here. So we're going to basically give the brackets, right? And this is what we're going to do. We're basically give this confirmed information. Yes, that is actually within our array. So let's change the color of our div statement to make it green. Crazy. Someone that's trying to do this, telling distracting. Let's get rid of this guy here. So if the value is found within the array, run these statements, right? Here's another thing we do. Like I said, I haven't mentioned this yet, but there's something called a flag variable that I can use. And I'm going to flip a Boolean flag if the item is found, right? So I'm actually going to declare a new variable. It's going to be a Boolean variable. I'll just put it here. So var is found equals false. If I do find this value, I'm going to flip this value and say it's found. And say it's found is equal to true. Right? So
what does that do?
because I'm going to use this is found in another condition after my for loop. Because if I don't find it, I want to say if is found is still equal to false, give it these guys here, unconfirmed, now with this, right? So here's how I'll use that. I'm going to write another if statement here and say if is found is equal to false, right? Run these statements. Just going to clean a few things up here. You see how this is used here, right? I'm basically using a flag to basically say, yes, it's in my array. If it's in my array, say yes, it's equal to true, right? But then I'm going to use this condition here to check whether or not it's been flipped or not, right? If it's not flipped, then I know it's not in my array, right? If it is flipped, then it's not going to output this information. Does that make sense?
So bar is found is false, like automatically.
Yeah, I just automatically set it to false.
But
And then if I find it, I'm gonna set it to true.
and how do you, and you only find it in that if statement? Well, I don't.
Yeah, so like I said, this has to be true, right? This condition has to be true. So if ever I run these statements, we found something in our array. If we never find anything in this array, it's never gonna flip to true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the statement won't process.
Right, so this condition has to be true to run these statements. If wherever the end user enters into the text box is not one of these values, it's never gonna output these statements. And so the condition is gonna always be false. You want to actually have the text box to be red, so it's not found in our array. So for instance, if I run this here, let's save it. I shouldn't have any errors. You might see any errors at all. All right, so let's run this here. Let's say, for instance, like I said, it looks like either one to run the same code here. Tomorrow we'll actually decipher which one and then choose a particular array based on the location. So here, if we enter, let's check it in. Say if we enter two values, we should get an alert box, right? Let's say this zip code needs to be 5 characters long.
So does the unconfirmed zip thing stay unconfirmed now because of the found statement? Variable?
Right, so it didn't run. So basically, it's saying like it's not found in an array. So we flip the if statement, right? And so, but that's checked for over 6 values, right? So like I said, it can't be equal to 5. If we enter 5 values, let's say for instance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, if you think it's going to flip to green, why not? Why want it flip to green?
Doesn't meet one of the conditions.
Right, it's not one of the items in our race. If we hit it, right, nothing happens, right? But if we enter what's one of the area code that we entered?
402?
What is it?
402, I think.
If we enter this, now this is one of our arrays, and that should flip to green, right? And so we run the CSS statements, that's when we basically change, modify the CSS for that particular div element, right? So right now, if we were to choose Arden Hills or Minneapolis, this is still do the same thing. So if we actually go back and choose, let's refresh, and go ahead and choose Arden Hills location, and we enter 55402, it's still be confirmed zip, right? We haven't made we haven't made a decision between which area codes are running a particular array for Minneapolis or Arden Hills, right?
So you could pretty much just copy everything you did in Minneapolis.
Exactly. And that's what I'll do. I'll just put it in a big if statement. If it is this, run this code, or if it is this, run this code. Exactly. So we'll do that tomorrow, and then we'll do some things with Sweet Alert. I think I showed you guys Sweet Alert in class here. Do some progressive enhancement. It basically gives a nice visual output for the alert box. But we'll do that tomorrow. And then, like I said, we'll finish off this application and we'll be done. Next week, we have one more lecture. I'll probably spend 3 days on, 3 to 4 days on, and then, 3 days on, and then you have 2 days of in-class time to basically work on 7-6, which is the last assignment. Does this make sense here? The logic? Like I said, if we go back to the code here, we're not doing anything that's magical, right? Everything that we're doing here is what we've been covering, what we covered in class, what I covered in the lecture, right? But we're just taking those concepts and using them to our benefit to basically create a holistic application, right? It's easy to kind of look at a concept and see how it functions, but then try to use that concept with other concepts, right? To create an application. So everything that we've done so far in this application, we've covered in class, right? So make sure you use functions in your application, right? That's a requirement for 7.6. Use the add event listener, right? Use the document identity ID, some decision logic, if-else statements, right? Like I said, if it doesn't make sense right now, that's totally fine, right? Sometimes it takes a while to actually click. But once it do click, it's like, oh, I got it, right? It's just like HTML, CSS. Once it clicks, you got it, right? And so if you need any assistance or any help, let me know. Go to my office this week. Try to do the JavaScript code this week. Next week, I know it's going to be kind of crazy with everybody's involved. But I would say take a step back trying to actually code this out early on. I'm going to try to take a step back doing it this week. If you have not done it, tomorrow, you may not say that. I guess I'm going to pause right there. Like I said, tomorrow we will finish off this application and add some Sweet Alert to it. Then actually continue to make a decision between Arden Hills and Minneapolis. If you guys have the rest of the class here, work on your assignment number 5. If you have any questions, feel free to call me over and we can talk about it. Yeah. Any questions? All right. So Weston and I won't be available.
We can move after that.